Your life.
Hey, welcome, folks. This is House Corrections and Institutions Committee. It is March 10th, Tuesday, March 10th. It's our first day back after our town meeting break. And we have with us folks who are going to bring us up to speed in terms of where we are right now in design documents for the entryway for the State House for life and safety issues, and then what the proposal is for going forward. So we'll start with our Sergeant at Arms. And Agatha, why don't you come on up?
You.
And introduce yourself for the record. And I know you've brought some folks with you, and I know BGS is here as well, so.
Yes, thank you. Agatha Kessler, Sergeant at Arms. Nice to see everybody. And we have a team here to support this testimony today. We have sort of, we're going to co-present. We'll do our best to kind of switch in and out of the seat. But I'm joined today by, it would be okay to introduce ourselves?
Sure.
Well,
Juan
Watson.
Manoli, Commissioner of Buildings and General Services.
Joe Agent, Director of Design and Construction, Building and General Services.
Paul Barney with PGS.
David Sheets, the curator with BGS.
Sean Brennan, Architect, Construction.
And we have Scott Moore from JFO for any question. He supports the Joint Fiscal Office and Sergeant at Arms Office and the legislature. So you did get an overview of this project earlier in January, as the chair said, and the goal of today is to give you access to the experts that have been working on this project, specifically Sean Brennan with Freeman French Freeman, the architectural firm that's been working on this, to ask the questions that we couldn't provide answers to during the overview. So we'll start with, it's a $1.3 million capital bill request. We did make this submission as part of the regular submission process in the fall. It was not incorporated into the capital bill, but the project is an $18.6 million project. And because this is a question we get quite a bit, is how long would this project take? And the nicest answer, I think, or the easiest answer is if we kept on track, on the track that we're already on the track that we've been in now for a couple of years in terms of design, is the 2030 session is when the doors could open or would open. And this is what the front doors would look like. This is exactly the same image that you saw in January. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to BGS to talk about the schedule and the budget. So switch seats.
So before you do that, we have put in previous dollars into this. So would it be you, Agatha, or is it BGS to go through the previous dollars and then what's left of that?
Chair of Wanda Manoli, Director. Joe will actually, he's got two slides that talk about the finances, what
Okay.
you've already put in, what the working with the Sergeant at Arms, looking at the project cost over the phase period that she referenced to 2030. These are the estimates on the cash flow to keep it moving forward.
Okay, got it. Got it, Joe.
Joe, you may have to go to your last slide, even though you start with this one.
Yeah.
Start here.
Yeah, it might be good to go to the last one.
Good afternoon. For the record, Joe Agent, Director for Design and Construction with BGS. So this slide in front of you here has multiple things going on, where we're at, our schedule, funding, the sessions for the legislature, all wrapped up beautifully into one convoluted slide. So if we start at the top and work our way down, we're looking at a design of 24 months. Now, we've already been in that design process. When this was a point in time taken, it was back in November, where you can see in the fifth row down, where it starts with schematic design, you get into the teal colored rectangle that says design development. So we're now, of course, still in design development as we speak, and we're working our way towards completing design development if all the stars align. Once we complete design development, then we do move into construction documents.
So you wouldn't go out to bid until you get the construction documents done.
That is correct.
So at this stage of the game for the committee, schematic design lays out the broad design in terms of the broad thinking of what could happen. Once you get into design development, then you refine that schematic design. And then the construction documents really solidify the design of the addition or the changes. So right now, we're in a stage that you could make some adjustments to the design in terms of the entryway or life safety issues,
Yes.
correct? I just want to put that out there for the committee, because you haven't really worked through these design documents too much in terms of knowing where we can have an impact, where we can say this is going in a direction that we like, this is going in a direction that we don't like, and we'd like to see these changes in the design documents.
Further on in the slide deck, you will see floor plans indicating boxes that have been indicated by Freeman French Freeman going, this is what the plan is to date. To be adding another, an extension of the east wing is not really something that we would want to undertake at this point, because you'd be going backwards of having to start that process kinetic design all over again. But that's where we're at. So when we're working down through this slide, you'll see the light green, third band down from the top is calendar years going through, and the purple line is fiscal years. So we've laid this out dollar-wise to request funds to do a pay-as-you-go. So basically, we're here requesting funds for the next fiscal year. And as Sergeant at Arms stated, the request was 1.3 million. It did not make it into the capital bill. But that was going to be for us to complete construction documents and start the bidding process.
So the 1.3 million that is being requested would get us through construction documents and get us out to bid and through the bidding process.
Yes.
So then if we do the 1.3, then the next step for next session would be to find money to actually do the construction.
Yes.
Questions of the committee? Because this is all new to folks.
Not sure who in the room I'm looking for. So this wasn't in the capital bill. It's $1.3 million. I guess the question is, does the administration support this project? And if we approve this, would we anticipate this money being funded in future capital bills?
Commissioner?
Wanda Manoli for the record. I think that based on all of the demands in the capital bill, it was not recommended to move forward in this year's because of it's a capital bill adjustment and all of the other commitments to other projects.
Thanks.
So this is new for the capital bill. Was not in the governor's recommended budget adjustment. And it would be up to this committee to make a decision. Do we find some money to continue this project or not? And do we find the money, but maybe not all of it, so that it doesn't go out in the timeline, so that at the end of FY 27, which is a year from this May, we would go out to bid. That's the plan, Commissioner.
So, Madam Chair, just for a moment, I feel like it would be.
Ethan Allen.
I apologize.
No, you had a certain way. It
Yeah,
was
just
kind of
came
slow.
back. You asked a question, you made a statement and then you opened it up for questions. I think it's really important for the committee to know that this is a cash flow estimate on how we would spend to move it through those fiscal years. If you choose to make the investment of the 1.3 and you look at the blocks with the financial and we go to construction documents, I just need to say that you are really making a larger commitment in future capital bill years. And you started saying that, then we went to questions. So I just wanted to emphasize that. And so you'll see the demands as you're looking at your capital bill on the out years. It's also important, and I'm going to ask that maybe Sean Brennan, the architect, talk about this. These are project costs based on estimates. Please remember that, committee, because it's really important. He's put some inflation into that, but as very well in this committee, as you adjust, refine drawings, They're project estimates. So that's really, really important. And when you take it out further, the estimated cost will more likely go up, not down.
So at this point, it is estimated to be approximately 18 plus million, 18.6 million in today's dollars.
Yeah.
So it's fair to say it could reach 20 million pretty easily, if not more.
You may want to have, I'll let you call on the architect if you want that clarified.
You want to weigh in, Sean? Is it Sean?
Yes,
Yes. So if you could just identify yourself, please.
Sean Brennan, architect with Riverfront Trading. So yes, the estimate was done off the schematic design drawings, and we're in design development now. So it did have a healthy contingency put in because we did not have all the information available, as Commissioner Manoli stated. Each phase of the design will get more information, which will make our estimates more exact. So at the early stage, we have a healthy contingency, but again, we do not have a contractor or a construction manager on board yet. We do not know exactly what the timeline of construction is, so there are a lot of assumptions in there. So we've made some assumptions for escalation for a couple of years worth of escalation and for that contingency. So we do have built-in cost elements there to account for that. Things can change as we move forward, as Commissioner was saying.
Like material costs could go up.
Absolutely.
Kevin. And then
So what is the contingency that's built in right now?
We
20%?
have 20%.
Sean?
How much of a challenge is it gonna be for a construction company to take 4 or 5 months off twice during the project?
That's why your costs go up.
Yes, this is a phased project. If there's a way to do it without phasing, of course, the cost will go down.
Right.
But it's something logistically that we deal with a lot on construction projects. Hospital work, things like that, we do it all the time. University work, same thing.
Okay, so that's not an enormous hurdle then.
It's not.
Okay, so the commercial world can adjust to this. Okay.
Correct.
And then I guess my other question would be to you, Joe, like, don't you think they could still do things while we're here? Or do you think they just couldn't?
Let's
Just
go into the design itself. And you might see why.
like, you know,
It's hard to say without having the contractor here.
yeah,
There may be some things to keep, noise and access are the two biggest things.
Right.
that we got to contend with.
yeah,
So that is a major access point and exit point.
yeah.
So that's one of the things you have to take into account. There's a set of stairs that goes up to the mezzanine.
Mhm.
So if you're going to open up that thoroughfare going from west to east, all of a sudden, how do you get to the mezzanine?
You got
Because
two
again,
platforms
took out the stairs, that main entry point may not be there. That's a accessible point. So that's some of the stuff we still would have to work out with the construction manager. So with this funding, we bring the CM on board at that time. So that bidding phase is not for the construction manager, but that is actually to start the construction process. So we need a construction manager on board for those because of the startup and the shutdown. They will take into account that, okay, there will be a shutdown period. And so once everybody's bidding on the same thing and understand that, that works. Do you always get the same crew back? No, but you get the same, you got the same subs and everything else back in line so that they're ready to go as soon as you start or you leave. So that's what we would be aiming for. If there was an opportunity to continue construction while you're still here, fine. But the other thing you got to weigh in, that may be at a greater expense, in time. So that's why we need our construction manager on board to evaluate that and then give us that feedback. And that's how we would bid it out.
Thanks.
But that is the plan that I have before you is cut down during the legislative session. Because that one is hard to shut that down and send contractors away and subs away.
Right.
So that's what we're pointing out first, instead of trying to say that we could make this work and realize in the end it can't work. And the funding also goes along through that. So, looking at construction for the 21 months, that includes that shutdown, And it's also about that funding during that point in time. If you were to expand, sorry, not expand, but shorten the construction because we did work during the legislative session, then the ask would be different also. How much, I don't know, without having that CM on board. But that is really that sort of that center band that you're seeing in construction in the 21 months, and how we shut down for the legislative session, then come back in and go. And the hard part here, sort of like with the air handling project, we'll give a contractor a start date, and they'll be starting that date, whether you're in office or not, or there could be delays. So that's really the gamble, again, working with a construction manager in advance, going, this is the date they're supposed to be out of here. How do you start that ramp up work that if we are delayed, the impact is not that great. But that's all behind the scenes and everything we put together. So as you're working your way down through this here, there's also in larger bubbles, the fiscal years that we'll be looking for the funding. And that's 1.3 million was the ask for this year, and then laying that out was 5 million in FY28, 9 million in FY29, because that's when we expect that large portion of the invoices to be in place and the construction work being done. And then also finishing up in FY30. And again, the FY30 is some construction, but mainly paying off bills and the warranty period in there and everything else that we contend with. And that's why that is a lesser dollar.
So right now, you have funding to date, about 870,000.
Agatha's driving.
Sorry, we're gonna take you to the last slide.
Yeah,
So
but
it was
well,
800.
Before you go there, go back where you were. So the 870,000 you currently have funding to date, design and permitting. So you have 870,000 plus right now. How far will that get you into design documents without the 1.3 million?
Last slide, that's the 800,000 is what was appropriated. We don't have that. That's why I think we go to the last slide to see what we have and we can answer that question.
Okay, it was appropriated, but you don't have it.
We've been spending it.
You've been spending it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so it's less than 870 right now.
That was what was identified for the project.
Okay.
I think we go to the last one.
I'll go to that.
I can see.
I just want to say representatives in committee, the way the purple band on top was designed is to show you also where in the design process we would need that money.
Where you would need the 1.3.
During, it would.
So what you've got in hand right now would get you through design development and part of construction documents or
Design
not?
development.
How far would that get you? What you have in hand right now, how far is that going to get you? Design development?
For design development,
So.
But it won't get you to construction documents.
no, it will not. I
Okay,
mean, the prep is there, but it will not start the greater part of it, and it can get into the laws.
And Madam Chair, the 1.3 includes the remaining, it's 1.3 plus the remaining funds to get us through construction documents.
okay, so I'm just trying to figure out the flow here of dollars. So what you have in place, right, what you have in hand right now will get you completely through the design development stage and can get you started a little bit in construction documents possibly, but you need the 1.3 million to really do the construction documents.
That is correct. Yep.
And you're anticipating finishing the design documents by the end of this summer. That could then get you into the construction documents that would take us from this fall until March of next year. So there'd be another legislative session next year. Just trying to get the committee to understand the flow of the documents to help understand the flow of the money. Now, we haven't said yes or no that we're going to go forward with this project. Right?
Right.
Yeah. Because the world has kind of changed in the last few years.
Do you want to jump to that last slide to see that, okay, let's go there.
Okay, so what we have here in front of you is the appropriations, and what we're looking at is we started with using ARPA funding. That was our first year out of the gate. And the ARPA funds that were not obligated by December and I think of 24 reduced us to $696,966. That's where we're at. We have remaining funds encumbered of $52,000, and by the end of March, I will have expended the $401,445. That is working with Freeman French Freeman and their billing and everything else. So that'll get us there. We have a balance of ARPA funds of $447. And those funds will expire on December 31st of 2026.
If you don't spend them.
That is correct.
Thank you, sir.
We do have the authority to spend them, and that would go towards that area of starting construction documents, if we can get those in place, because there's still some funds, but we got to make our last payment on the 31st. I say that, I'm sure our finance is going to want to before that, but that's what we'd be looking at for using the ARPA funds. I forget the exact year of the ARPA funding, but the following year, it was in 23, and FY 24, we asked for an additional $150,000 in cash fund. And the reason for the cash funds, the ARPA funds were very narrow of where you could spend it on. And this was looking at some additional life safety things, accessibility and likes of that. So we have encumbered $500 of the FY 24 cash funds. We have expended $46,304 and have remaining of $103,196. Those funds are in 24. They don't get repoed yet. So there are those funds still remaining that could also help this project continue at this point in time. There was additional bond funds that we used out of our planning money, and that was very similar to the cash of 150. And that was for, we looked at sprinkler system, doing a code analysis. Those were not covered at the time by ARPA funds. We were moving forward with that in the early planning process with Freeman French Freeman. So that's why we use the planning funds to cover that phase in that work. So those funds have been expended. So that leaves us with $346,643.
So that will get you through the design documents.
It will not get us through construction documents.
Not through construction.
It will start it, but only for basically September to December. So it's a very narrow window.
So the other piece, if we decide not to go forward with this, we lose that 243,000 unless it could be diverted elsewhere. It would have to stay with this project.
So did and Joe and I have worked on this, my understanding, the extensions have expired. So we either have to spend it on this project and it has to be a legitimate project, or the dollars will expire. We do not have the opportunity. I think in previous years, you had the opportunity to reallocate it within the projects. It's our understanding, December 31st, 2017. Oh my gosh, 2026, we will not have that. So if this project does not get funded, I think there'll have to be an evaluation of how do we proceed, and where do we close out the books on that? The 103,000 we have flexibility with, as you well know, committee, since you appropriated it.
So if the 346,000 can get us through design documents.
Joe's saying,
It will not, because of the flow that we have.
I think there's a nomenclature. It'll get through design development documents.
Yes,
But not to construction, maybe a
Correct.
little, maybe.
it may be, yes.
So if we got through design development, if we got that far, and put a hold on the project going forward for construction. How, if say in 3 years, we wanted to pursue the entry project. The design development dockets would be in place. Would they still be valid 3 years down the road?
Yes, they would. We would have to look at them again just to make sure any code updates are incorporated. But yes, the design would still be valid.
Did you see where I'm going? What I asked?
Yeah.
So we don't lose the money. Can we at least get through the design development documents that are in place that could be used maybe 3 years hence, when there may be more money available to do the redesign of the entryway? Not commit to construction, not commit to the construction documents, not commit to going out to bid. Just putting some thoughts on the table. Kevin,
I love what we see. I'm not against it. Hear that? What other alternatives have we looked at this stage? If we just looked at functionality as opposed to this beautiful design that we have we looked at that? And if you already shown me and I forgot?
I think the sergeant at arms should
Yes.
talk about the program.
So this project has been underway for probably 2 years.
Yeah.
It started with lots of things that we cannot afford. It started with, so to answer your question, yes, we've looked at lots of alternatives.
Okay,
And what we're presenting is the bare minimum of what we need to increase our security program and to enhance ADA access to the building.
okay,
So,
thank you.
yes.
I had to ask that question.
other questions at this point before we get into actually seeing the proposed design? Okay, so this is Sean. Sean, it's your turn for the hot seat that's warmed up for you.
It's plenty warm in here.
Yeah, thanks, Sean.
I'll talk to the engineers about that.
Yeah, HVAC work going on?
A little bit. It's been going a little while.
Freeman has worked with us in many capacities over different projects. They've worked with us a lot here in the State House with our HVAC system and any design. They've also were a very important partner when we rebuilt the Waterbury complex after Irene. So we've worked really hard with French Freeman, and we really appreciate the work that your company has done for us.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity. And yes, we are working on the HVAC project here, and part of that is integrating these two projects if this moves ahead. So we are cognizant of that and are working such that we are not duplicating efforts if we're going forward with this. So I just wanted to put that out there because efficiency is key to us as well. So I'll just say it again. I'm Sean Brennan with French Freeman, and I'm here to talk about the design of the project. As you can see, the new areas are the colored areas in the upper left and the connection through the courtyard currently.
So could you orient the committee, because we
Absolutely.
have new members to the building in general? Could you just orient the committee to what floor you're on and where some of the committee rooms are, where the entry hallway is, that type of thing?
So the main entry and the main steps off of the plaza facing State Street is in this zone right here. Sergeant at Arms office is right there. So as you come back, there's the Lincoln corridor straight back. And so the Supreme Court, originally the Supreme Court building, the annex, is off to the left right here.
That's a lounge.
And so and this is the courtyard that currently separates the back addition from the State House proper. And so the purpose of this work is to try to create a screening area for health and safety and orient visitors and create direct circulation. We're trying to put as many things in one basket as we can. So part of what this is doing is creating the screening area here, but also creating the link that takes you directly to the Lincoln corridor rather than having to go through the back area for visiting. Because if we create a screening area without creating the link, which we can do, you're creating a real bottleneck in circulation. That's what we discovered as we were going through the project. Obviously, you walk through there every day, you know how congested it can be. But imagine having the normal congestion, then tour groups coming through at the same time.
So the link is that white corridor, right?
Correct. So this is currently outside, and you'll have a bridge above right here and a bridge above right here currently that exist. That take you to the cafeteria or the speakers of the house.
So you'd fill in the courtyard,
Correct,
the hallway,
correct.
closed hallway.
And so that serves a function that if you do have groups that come in, they'll be screened and can enter. And then they can come down here and organize in this atrium space before they enter the State House. So there's less congestion and noise outside the functioning areas of the State House.
I would contribute that piece about collecting in the atrium and organizing yourself before you enter the building is so important for anyone using House Appropriations in room 9, anyone in room 10, anyone in room 11, anyone in Senate Judiciary. When there are 50 people
Mhm.
in the lobby, nobody can do any work. It is extraordinarily loud. And so I just wanted to put a use case on this importance of groups being able to collect themselves before they come into the building.
So we're saying with this addition. So for a lot of members, room 10, room 11, and room 9 were not committee rooms. Room 9 was the coat room, where appropriations is now, was the coat room. And rooms 10 and 11 were the meeting rooms. So there was, the noise was not quite as much, particularly now that you have a committee room in room 9. Plus you've displaced the hope, which is no longer in the center of activity. So with this, we're saying that room 9 would be a permanent committee room with this design. Is that what we're saying?
I would say nothing's permanent here in the State House, but it is the biggest space for the committee that brings in a lot of witnesses. And so that would be a decision for joint rules to make. And so I don't think it would be accurate to say it's permanent, but also I don't know of any plans of moving appropriations out of room 9. There is no other place to put them at this point.
So when the folks are coming in, the entry and screened area, where would the coat room be?
So the coat room would be in this zone.
Same
In the
spot.
same spot that
We're
it
not
is
moving it
now.
as part of this space project, no.
And then the hoteling room, which is beyond the coat room, where you have, if you go to the right, you have the IT room, and then you have the hoteling
Yes,
for lead staff, that would stay.
yes.
What about the restroom? Would that stay as well? The current restroom that's there?
Correct. The areas you see in gray remain as is, and then the restroom would be renovated as part of this project. The restroom shown in blue on the left has a WC, water closet as its nomenclature.
So that would be renovated?
It would be renovated.
In what way?
New finishes and make sure that it complies with code.
But that's brand new, just a
Right.
few years, so why
But-
would it have to be renovated?
So that it would go with the look of the new entry for the public. So that it's cohesive.
Brian?
Just nomenclature. Hoteling is what, like hot desking, whoever needs
Yeah,
one?
with Let's Council, what happened, Let's Council used to be in the mezzanine,
Yeah,
they got moved down here.
yeah.
So for Ledge Council, for our Ledge Council, our lawyers, sometimes instead of running back and forth, there are desks with computers
Yeah,
in that room that they can use.
so strictly for Ledge Council, but whoever needs one from them. Okay.
Joe?
This project, if actualized, how does that impact the parking in this area that exists now and the trucking ingress egress?
So those are two good questions. We have a very constrained site at this location, as you all know. And if we're funneling everyone through there now for screening for various reasons, but That means no one's coming through these other areas, partly because there's no ADA access on those other areas as well. So try to create equality for the entry experience for everyone and security. It dovetails into one site. So that indicates this location for grade reasons. That's why we're working there. But to your point, we still have to separate out traffic flows. So we have deliveries. Currently, it goes to one space. What we're doing with this design is saying we're separating those, knowing it still has to be in the same zone, but they're different locations. So deliveries would be up here that direct in a back corridor back to the elevator for the cafeteria. The public would enter through the screening area over here. So while they're in the same location on the site, they don't intermix. So that's a key for us, is we want to make sure we have that separation. The legislators would still be able to access from the east entrance. We'd create a secure entry over there. So we're further separating the traffic flows so that we have a public, a delivery, and then the private for the members.
So for that, fire exit and service entrance, security and entry screening, are you gonna have to do any blasting to make that piece wider?
We've designed it in such a way, as you can see, it's a little bit angled
Huh.
to minimize any amount of doing. It may not have to be blasting. It might even be backhoe jackhammered to avoid blasting. So that's our goal, is to do the minimum amount.
Further back.
A little bit,
Back.
a little bit. But not as much as, say, this area in the back here that was all blasted for the stairs and the elevator back in the day.
And where will the handicap parking for
I can talk about parking a little bit. So that, the C lot, we call it, where is right out there, where a lot of our legislators park, would go away. The entry would take that space and a new walkway. We have a slide that shows that. So handicap parking would have to shift to the east side of the building. And we would have to be using the lot behind Pink Lady more for ADA parking. So this would have an effect on parking in terms of, you know, we try to have it so that people with mobility issues are parking closest to the building, but also keep legislators in a leadership role or staff in a leadership role get close parking. Probably that will have to change in this new scheme, where priority would be placed on mobility issues and accessibility for the spots that are closest to the building. And the east side of the building has the most amount of spots closely located to the entrance or to the doorways.
Right. And
But we're gonna lose some parking spaces out here.
We will. But those parking spaces are currently used only by legislators. Members of the public are not parking anywhere close to the building. The only options that members of the public have, it's very, it requires a lot of coordination with Capitol Police and the Sergeant at Arms office to get parking for true visitors to the State House that need accessible parking. Because the two accessible spots that are available to them are the ones right in front of the Pink Lady. And if you look out your window, they're coned off because the icicles fall. So I think it's fair to say that under this new plan, parking for visitors, ADA parking for visitors may actually be enhanced through this.
Where would they park?
They'd be parking where the Pink Lady is,
so,
behind the Pink Lady.
yeah, and we're trying to come up with a way to save the two spots beside the Pink Lady and make it so they're not in the drop zone for the
Yes.
snow and ice.
Yeah.
So the site plan is sketchy right now because the engineers have a layout that they've drafted that we've given them feedback that they haven't caught up to yet. So I sketched over it and said, these are some ideas that we want to explore further. So when we look at that plan, you'll see my red lines that I put on there, and we can explain some of the thinking there.
And Agatha, aren't there only like 5 or 6? There's like 5 or 6
Five.
spots over
And
here.
then you got two. That's-
Yeah, but I mean, that's not, it
But with
seems,
parking being so tight and losing 6 or 7 spots is
Mhm.
big.
having them go further out behind the Pink Lady makes it more difficult.
Makes it worse with handicap. Wanda?
Wanda Manoli, thank you, Madam Chair. I
Sure.
think it's really important for, at this time, with parking, that, you know, we continue working through the process. The Montpelier Complex parking is assigned to all of the Montpelier Complex parking. during the legislative session, we swap back and forth and we give up parking for state employees and for other customer services. And we assign those to the sergeant at arms. So we can't look at the parking just isolated to the state house. I just need to say this we have to look at it very holistically, because the other project that is on the horizon is, what does the future of the Capitol complex look like regarding the flooding and everything? So while we're looking at it and we know we have to identify spaces and needs for this, we have to, from BGS, we will be looking at it much larger and how that impacts.
And that would be, parking is one of those issues that we have not, we don't have a plan. It's part of the design development. It's part of our future planning process. It was not part of the design, knowing that that's gonna be a big issue.
Big issue. Parking's a big issue.
Yes.
Because if you come in here off session, every space is full. So everyone's getting displaced when we come in. Joe?
I have no animus towards the pink lady, nor do I know its legacy.
It's just a color paint.
If it didn't exist,
Where would joint fiscal go?
well, that's a different question, you know? That's a different question. But you could ameliorate a lot of the parking concerns. Let's face it, the parking in session, I can't speak out session, is sufficient now. If all members commuted by themselves, there wouldn't be adequate parking now. It's defective now.
Right, it has been for many years.
And to proceed with anything without that being part of the plan and not a follow-up, it's a non-starter.
So, Madam Chair, I just want to say this is a really great conversation, because as we rebuild for Montpelier, we potentially could be losing more parking because of the flooding. We are going to have to create flood mitigation areas. So I just encourage, as we explore this, we just keep that in mind, because it's going to be the whole complex. And I'll just say for the record, actually, French Freeman is our architect of record that's working with us on the Capitol complex project. And so one of the good things is being aware of what's going on over there and the federal requirements for the mitigation, and this project will all become clearer and be more cohesive over the next year, I would expect. Is that a fair statement, Sean?
Absolutely. We clearly understand the need for parking here. We've done parking studies for this area over the past 2 decades.
Ever,
So we really understand it.
ever and ever and ever.
We're buying another parking garage, Joe.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, no.
That's what I was thinking. We gotta get this parking thing out here. Parking garage in the pit.
Sure, I just want to keep we have more testing.
No, yeah, we're bumping our 2 o'clock to
Okay.
tomorrow.
So as you are aware, there's quite a slope here to the site. And again, commenting on Sergeant at Arms' statement that it's very difficult to park near here if you're handicapped, and if you can't park near here currently, it's very difficult to get here in that case. So what we're trying to do with this design, and it's still in motion, is if you can't park right near here, we're trying to say, okay, well, how can we adjust this parking to make it usable all year round? That's part of the issue, is in the wintertime, you can't use it. So we're still working it. It's tweaked there. It's starting to work, but we have a little more to do.
Where is that again?
That's right beside the Pink Lady, which is right here.
And Sean, the red, that would be the stairs that lead you into the new entryway.
Let me get you oriented here.
Okay.
Sorry, I see it automatically, but I forget people haven't worked on this before. So here's a site plan from Google that just shows you what you're looking at. Here's that parking lot. Here's the annex. Here's where the new entry would go right here.
Uh-huh.
So from that, I take the civil plan right here from our engineers. And what I'm showing you is here's that annex right here. So that's this part right here. And here's where our new curved entry would come in, right into that corridor. And so this is outside. So this is the Pink Lady footprint right here. So that's this building right here. So what we're saying is, this is a pretty steep site. That's what you're looking up right there in that photograph. we can't make an accessible route straight up. So, and if we don't have enough parking, people will have to take that route, with wheelchairs. So what our goal is to create walking paths, access paths, because this is the new entry, that are ornamental, so to speak, ceremonial, because it is a formal entry, and create a path for everyone. So we have the ability from this existing confluence of walkways to have two paths up, a straight path up or a path that lines up that can utilize the grade to make the slopes acceptable for wheelchair access. So that's what we're trying to create there, and create an organizing plaza right in front, just with some paving for steps so people can get together before they go up. So it creates it's not nearly anything as big as the main entry in front of the State House currently, but it's something that acknowledges that it is a formal entry to a formal building.
Kevin?
This is almost foolish to ask the question, but has anybody thought about a multi-tier parking area all the way down? Because from a volume standpoint and a security standpoint, you would be able to enhance the security for the employee, for the legislatures, and you're going to expand the volume you can handle. If you're going to have trucks going in and out with visitors and legislators in that area, that to me just seems like waiting to happen.
I would just like to say, we're exploring many options. Again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but we have to balance everything as we look at the complex at whole. So is there an opportunity? Is there something down there that we've explored? Maybe. How many spaces is it? We don't know. But it's, again, and I respect the legislative process and the legislature very much. We have to look at how the complex is used year round and how that impacts, not just seasonal for the legislature. So to answer your question, we are looking at parking from the rebuild of the complex and from this side. And we are exploring. We don't have a recommendation. We haven't finalized anything. And again, Representative, it comes back to where are we with flood mitigation? Because that's going to be really extremely critical too. And I don't know if there's anything you can highlight on that, Sean.
Just suggesting the pinch point could be in the parking area as opposed to where all the visitors and all the traffic is coming in. If you had a 3-level parking area and the security there before you go through a secured tunnel.
That's one
Now you don't have
option.
people fearful of.
So that's one option, but we also have historic buildings that are in the flood order right now. And, we're looking at so many things.
I'm sure you are.
Yes.
And notice I'm saying past the pink lady, so.
No, but that also impacts the flood mitigation across the street.
Absolutely.
And the parking behind 133.
That's correct. So it's, again, it's very, very holistic. I mean, it's the whole thing, but I think what's most important as a working group, we are looking at everything.
Absolutely. We're even looking at future construction for State House expansion if you ever wanted to do that. We don't want to preclude that happening in the future.
You've got all that
Kevin.
electrical transmission there.
Just so I understand, what do you say is parking way down there? Where are you talking?
I'm talking the existing parking lot that houses 35 cars right now. And if you went up 3 levels and had security there,
You've got residential homes behind that, right?
well, behind it, so you've got to build up, you're right. And then maybe the zoning says you can't.
I was just curious where you're at. So,
But
And it's,
Commissioner is correct. We are looking at different options on how to address these issues. Absolutely. And the flow of traffic is also of interest to us as to scheduling deliveries so that they don't conflict with visitors. And also, again, as legislators may be coming in from the east to separate them from the visitors for those purposes. So you have to go through screening because you're already cleared.
Flow here off session is very, very different. During the session, the biggest flow is in the morning when we all come in and staff is coming in. And then the cars are sitting there all day. And that's when your deliveries come in. That's when when we come in the morning, any tour group students are coming in as well. In the summertime, the pinch points are not as drastic because we're out of town. So the staff are using our parking lots that we use. But then you've got the tourists coming in, you've got bus tours coming in here, particularly in the fall. You have a few coming in through the summer, but the bulk of it is in September and October, the bus tours. And the buses come up here, and then they have to find a way to get around. The folks are coming in. You really need ADA access for those bus tours. So the flow here is very, very different from what you hear. When we're here, it puts the pressure on everybody else. Brian?
This is a minor question, but so the loading dock would be moved a little further back in this proposal, but the approach for the trucks is basically the same. That doesn't change that. does
The
it?
approach would be, yes, they
Yeah.
go up from Aiken.
Yep.
And then I'll just diagram it, because we have to have the civil engineers do all the diagramming for trucks. But they come up, they pull this way,
Yeah.
back in, and then exit.
And regardless of, tourists and whatever, I mean, that doesn't interfere with it. I mean, you want to schedule so things come at
The scheduling would be key,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
For lack of better terms, they lose their swing, if you will. So like the existing
Yeah.
handicap spot's gotta be gone, I would think. Because you're bumped out to about, where are you bumped out to? Somewhere around here?
Yeah, we come out to about here with the building, and then, let me see, where's the ground? There's the ground. Yeah, right about here with the building, and then the steps.
So that's kind of that. And
So we reorient those so that they're not in the way and they're free of the drop zone. So yeah, it's quite a little jewel box there to try to create.
And there's limits in terms of the size of the trucks coming in, right?
They would be the same as what they can handle now.
It's basically box trucks.
Yeah, or small articulating trucks, the smaller size.
We do get 18-wheelers that come in. We've had a couple get stuck. But they
What would they be delivering? 18 wheels?
usually put furniture, we're getting large furniture delivery, or if they just have an oversized truck, they didn't realize how small our driveway was. Skilled drivers can get in and out. But vendor control, that's what we're calling like in the security world. Vendor control is very important in terms of our next phases of security programming. We want to have schedules. We want to have people showing up on a schedule. We know what they're delivering. We'll be able to scan what they're delivering, screen what they're delivering. We just can't really do it. I actually love this picture that Sean picked to show the Google image of how congested that loading dock is. And as we start to activate screening on a more regular basis, that will be the public entrance, whether we build this building or not, or build the addition or not, that is going to be the public entrance for the State House moving forward. It's also, as you can see, where the jewel box, there's a lot going on there. I think there's one more slide.
Mary?
I probably don't have to ask this, and forgive me if my language is. The new portion that you're going to be building for the entrance of folks coming in is historically appropriate for, and I know I don't have to because we've used your company for many projects over the years, but it goes in the historic preserve.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I hadn't heard that said, and I know David wouldn't want anything else. So I just wanted to make sure.
Historic preservation eyes have been on this from the
I'm
outset.
sure
Yeah.
before it
Laura
even.
Treishman has been part of the process.
That's what I figured.
So is the Capital Complex Commission going to have to get involved in this at all? Is the National Historic entities going to have to get involved in this?
Yes, so we will have to present the final to the Capitol Complex for them to weigh in.
The final,
The final design, but we have talked, depending, on the schedule, there will come a point in time when we will, as a courtesy, bring it forward to the Capitol Complex Commission, because we like to get their read is there anything that they want to see or ask any questions before we get there? And then I think everyone, it's important, our Capitol complex is it's on the National Historic Register. So it's not just this building, it's our complex. So the answer to that question is no matter what we do, they will be involved with this project. And if we make any significant changes, once we receive an offer from FEMA and we look at those. So that is Laura's, our historic preservation entity is a part of those discussions. With the complex, we required that French Freeman bring on a historic architect. So there's multiple levels of consulting that is occurring, Madam Chair.
So is that all gonna happen in the design development phase? Or does that get into your construction document phase?
Consulting with the national
Mhm.
and Laura.
National is at
Yeah.
each phase.
Correct.
So we submit at each phase.
At each phase?
Correct.
And I think what Sean just said is we submit, there's a process that French Freeman goes through in that submission, right?
Correct.
And so for the record, we did already submit to the National Historic Registry for schematic design, and we did not hear back, that we had 90 days, and in those 90 days, we did not hear back any objection.
And when was that submitted?
It was in the fall, so we passed the.
This
90
past
days.
fall?
Yes, yeah.
Maybe there weren't enough people to see it,
Instead of not receiving the document,
but you didn't
you
hear.
need to have a document in front of
There. And wasn't it a government shutdown at the same time?
Part of it.
Stand back with any,
And some of that, yeah.
do you need a formal thing that says it's okay?
Maybe that some of it.
The question, that would be a question for Laura Treishman, and the question was, we didn't hear back after 90 days, so do we need something in writing from them that they did not
I would
object?
think we would want something in writing so they could just say, pull the plug on it when we're in the midst
Yeah.
of doing it.
Plus, it was during the government shutdown.
Right,
Yes.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they weren't looking to Vermont's addition to our state house, I can assure you.
But I think, even if we didn't hear from them at this phase, what Sean is referencing is there's gonna be another.
Yeah.
There's going to be another submission. So while at the schematic design, we didn't hear anything, I think at the next submission, the design is much more defined.
Right.
So we would expect to hear from
In
them.
asking these questions, I just don't want there to be a hiccup in the
Yeah.
middle.
Yeah.
That's my only reason I'm asking.
Madam Chair, we have one more
Person-
slide.
Yeah, let's do the next slide, because we do have testimony waiting for us. I bumped them to about quarter after, so if we could go through this pretty quick.
So this is just to illustrate some of the work our engineers are doing. So what this shows is, sorry, here's the addition again, here's the connector to the atrium and the courtyard. Here's our project we just finished, the addition in the back that has the new air handling equipment in it. So we're working off of that and extending that. We're installing new equipment that has to feed all of our new spaces. So we realized we're going to have additional load on our equipment. So because we have new spaces to condition, and so we're adding on new equipment in order to meet that load. And we're going to be making sure the later phases of the HVAC project take that into account so that we're not putting in equipment now and then having to take it out or modify it later when this project would happen.
So I want to backtrack to the corridor. And speaking of the equipment, to the corridor and the courtyard, we have a bump out because of the HVAC, and it was the heat pump. I mean, we didn't do the summer boiler, so we ended up with that bump out
Yes.
there in the courtyard. Does that stay, or are you going to be
That stays. We don't want to spend the money, honestly, to redo all of that. It could probably be reworked, but it would be a good amount of money.
Well, that corridor is pretty narrow. I mean, you've got that little bump out there, so it's not going to be flush with the building.
Right, it's this zone right here. This is what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's actually quite a nice space, that atrium. I've spent a lot of time just standing there outside, imagining it's not the same size as the lobby, but it is pretty nice. It's a pretty nice big space.
So in order to get through construction documents to bidding, the 1.3 that you're requesting will get you through that process. What you have in hand right now is 346,000. If you just had the 346,000 and we did not find the 1.3, that would get you through design development. So that we can reassess next year in terms of how do we move forward here,
Correct.
right?
Yes. Yes. And we would have to complete that work. I'm gonna emphasize this because I'm very.
Because of the ARPA money.
By December.
Right.
And so I would say to the team, is that reasonable? To get that work completed by December or the funds?
The design development,
Yes.
because here you have it's be done in August of 26.
So we would have to spend it, Madam Chair, the remaining balance on or before the December
31st.
31st. And is that reasonable?
Yes.
Better than perhaps.
Very,
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
So those are the two, right now, that's the two options right before us, right now. And when we start markup is where we'll start making some decisions.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to add, because I think I've shared with the committee that this project is an absolute priority for the Sergeant at Arms office. Just like all the projects that come before this committee, it's my responsibility to advocate for this project. It's directly tied to the security program of the State House. In terms of our ability to have adequate space to do screening, we're kind of, the way I describe it is like making dinner out of the pantry. You know, like we're doing screening out of the loading dock. And we're probably not coming back from that. This project to doors opening would be at least 4 years, and any delay is a delay in an opportunity to move forward on the HVAC project. It's a delay on an opportunity to think about that hotel space, what we're using it for. There's a lot of space in that area, including where the coffee room is, that is just on hold until we make a decision on this project. So I would, and to support the project, the 1.3 million lets us to be able to make commitments to the construction management firms. So that's, I will just leave it at that. This project is a priority for the Sergeant at Arms office.
Right?
this is sort of, and I do this sometimes, a mess of a question, but I remember this from your previous testimony too. There's sort of this origin story about why this came about, right? And I think anybody here can write the headline as well as I can about legislators spending millions of dollars on their own digs when people are sweeping rough, you know? And so this all started with a security concern, but it also addresses deliveries and ADA and people wayfinding and, you know,
Yes.
like what's the story? Yeah.
Thank you for asking, because this is a public access project. It's not about making space for legislators or staff. This project is 100% about public access, ADA access, secure access to the State House. So the origin was actually COVID and creating a space for health screening. It's so it's about COVID, and that's where the ARPA funds came from. And as it developed and as security became more of an issue, it's developed more into a security and ADA project, which is absolutely about public access. You're not getting offices out of this. You're not even getting bigger committee rooms. What you're getting is a front door so that people can come in and out of the building with more ease and we can be more courteous about how we're bringing people into the building. We don't have to say, ADA, you have to come in through the loading dock, which is exactly what I have to say to so many people right now when they're trying to visit the State House.
This started way back with
I know.
trying to find more space in the building for us.
The security was discussed during 9/11.
Right.
So
So this is really narrow, much narrow than what it was originally thought. It's been scaled back a lot, because this all started back in 21. And it was COVID that drove it. But what also drove it was bigger, more space in the building. So it's been scaled back a lot. Anything else before we finish up here? Transition real fast. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sure we'll be in touch when we start markup. We'll be in touch, I'm sure. So we've got coming in a request for money in the capital bill to be used for recovery housing. For the world. See, our bill is big day.
The testimony.
Sounds good.
You
You want water, Mary?
You're here.
Just ice. And some water with the ice.
It's got to
Can do
be
that.
real quick.
So
Definitely that too.
Things change. But why don't you leave the door open? Right in the cafeteria, you think?
Yo, let's go to this message.
No, it's not DOC.
Leave that open.
Leave it open.
Kate.
The DOC's being pushed back 15 minutes.
everything's
Recovery houses.
So formal.
I still think, I don't, I should see that entrance. You do it.
Take it off. Hearings and meetings.
everything kind of.
That's what I'm worried
But you're committing more money. in the
I know.
future. You gotta balance out what are you gonna do with
I
the
know.
correctional facility? What are you gonna do?
Together, I know.
Yeah, the story. We could have wasted 1.3 million dollars in future years. I'd want a commitment from them that they're
The only
gonna.
reason I brought up.
Here.
Yeah.
It's a swing and deal with
Yeah, frustrating. I think they're.
Yeah, well, that's what I just.
You know, that's-
Legislating, legislative.
Some of our legends.
Oh, I see, you're talking about two separate people.
Be sitting,
Oh, yeah.
could be sitting for a while.
Secure.
Out there, who is?
I mean, this all started with more committees. That's what all started. Committees.
Also, this is a total dog. Yeah.
Okay, folks, I'm sorry, we're running a little, so we're gonna shift gears here. We have this Chad, how do you pronounce your last name? Vijay. Vijay. Okay. It's French.
Mary, there was literally one ice cube left. She's probably numbered already.
Okay,
So
Sorry.
we've got a request here for some money to be put into some recovery homes. And this is being asked as an addition to our capital bill. Has not come in as a request from the governor in our capital budget adjustment. These are not state-owned property,
Correct.
though they do operate, they do get state money for operations. And there is a plan as well to increase the number of recovery beds around the state as well. And I don't know if any of this request is tied into that request as well. So you might want to weigh in on that one way or the other. So
This is not on any budget or.
it is not in the governor's capital bill budget adjustment. It is being requested for us to add this to the capital bill. So Chad, welcome. I know you came up from, you had a gorgeous day to drive up.
That's very nice.
So welcome. And there is a memo that you presented to us. So if you could just introduce yourself for the record.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, committee members, for having me today and moving your schedule around in a late afternoon to accommodate. My name is Chad Vijay. I am the CEO, the Executive Director of Recovery House, Inc. I do want to start by clarifying that Recovery House, despite its name, which was established in 1980 for namesake, does not operate any recovery homes. We specialize in residential substance use treatment programming. So we operate Serenity House, which has been around since 1972. We operate Grace House, which is a lower intensity level of care, a 3-month program of treatment that's been around since 2020. And we operate another longer term 3-month treatment program called the McGee House, which opened in November of 2024. So we specialize in treatment. Part of our demographic is a considerable amount of folks who often intersect the justice and corrections system. I think our estimate is around 50% of our population has some intersection with either the justice or criminal correction system as a part of their daily living experience. So I'd like to kind of walk through time a little bit, established 50 years ago in what have been established as not quite historic sites, but certainly properties that are older than 120 years old. There's been a lot of deferred maintenance. You think about substance use treatment, reimbursement rates over the years. Every dollar has really gone to client care over those years, and there have been a lot of facilities disrepair that were pushed aside and kicked down the road because that wasn't the priority at the time. And operating over 50 years, I'm entering into this phase where I'm thinking about the next 50 years. And our buildings, I'm not sure will last another 50 years. And so we've been doing repairs over the years to try to keep up with some of that deferred maintenance. But we've reached a point where the projects are too many, and we simply don't have the capital to get to a point where we're caught up on those improvements. I do also want to draw your attention to the memo where I know that 98% of our work is supported by the state and federal government through either Medicaid reimbursement or grants. And so there isn't much room for profit over those years, as those rates have been historically low, and the grant funding isn't intended to have operators make profit for additional needs. So our total capital improvement request that I'm bringing forward is for $220,000. And this includes a list of capital improvement priorities at each of our 3 locations, Serenity House, Grace House, and McGee House. For example, fixing our roof, or installing new windows, which will help with our heating costs, installing a generator. The Vermont winters are a bit harsh, and as it stands right now, when we lose power during a snowstorm, I myself go down to the facility, drag out a generator, and hook it up. So we're looking to become more efficient, more cost effective. And I believe by investing in our facilities, we are going to be more cost effective, and we're going to be able to deliver more and better efficient care to Vermonters.
Alice.
Go ahead.
So I've got a question. We're all in favor of recovery homes and that, especially dealing with our corrections population and all of that. But why so late in the process of putting this forth for funding? Because it's always a challenge at this point of the game. It's not a game, but this point of the legislative session to be pulling money from other places. And the governor's always saying that, we need recovery home or housing and all of that with treatment.
Mhm.
That possibly would have been a better benefit had you back in the fall when they were putting the budget together.
Mhm.
So why so late in the process are you coming before us? And what other committees have you talked with?
So I think a Big part of our timeline is trying to understand what the governor's budget was going to look like. We knew that there was going to be considerable focus on recovery homes. Fortunately, we don't fall under that category because we're delivering treatment. So there was a delay in trying to figure out what monies would be available. And since there were no monies available, we put together this request after that.
So, a little more clarity. So you're not considered part of what the state sees as recovery homes?
Correct.
Between the Serenity House, Grace House, and McGee House, right? So how are those three entities operating? Do they operate with separate boards, or is there one board for all three of them?
One board for all three. So Recovery House Inc. is the umbrella organization. And that board oversees the programs at Serenity House, Grace House, and McGee House. And we operate as healthcare facilities rather than recovery homes.
So does that mean that you're able to, or how do I ask this? Does that mean you don't have to meet federal or state like requirements inside? Like, do you have to is it really stringent what you do, like how you run the inside of those businesses?
The physical plant itself.
The physical plant.
So we are licensed by Dale. So we follow Dale standards. We follow Department of Fire Safety standards.
Yep.
We are operating up to code according to them.
Okay.
But there are some disrepair items that don't draw that attention.
Right. So it's so much less expensive than us doing it, but having it be private. This is private, correct?
Correct.
You get tremendous bang for your buck with this right here, to me.
But you were saying you get some of your money federally as well.
Mhm.
So don't they have to be part of the picture?
I don't.
Do you get state reimbursement for any of your beds?
Through Medicaid, yes.
And do you get any beds through DOC?
No.
It's all through Medicaid, but you're housing some folks who have come from DOC, but DOC isn't paying for those beds?
Correct. They would be either Medicaid recipients or private insurance.
So are you getting anyone through Department of Mental Health or the designated agency that are paying for those beds?
No.
It's all through Medicaid, but are they also clients of the designated agencies?
In a lot of cases, yes.
So it's Medicaid that's paying. And Medicaid will be paying for those folks who are DOC connected. Do you have folks who are DOC connected who are on furlough and parole?
Yes.
But DOC is not paying for those beds. It's through the Medicaid for that person.
Through Medicaid.
And your nonprofits.
Correct.
And do you look at grant money for operation as well as infrastructure upgrades?
So oftentimes the grant monies don't allow for certain operational costs. They're typically project-based, but we do receive block grant funding through the feds. There are some state grants that we have for outreach and engagement, and a few other needs as well. I'm trying to think of grants we might have that different operations. I think it's when we think about the operations, it's oftentimes focused on FTEs and being able to deliver the service in a certain way.
Yeah, I'm not meaning to interrupt, but just to follow on that, would they be eligible to apply for a grant for like our venue?
Building community grants.
Building
Yeah.
community grants.
They're a nonprofit.
And I'm surprised you almost haven't yearly put in for that. Because I know we just built 2 new recovery, or there's not 2 private recovery homes that the second one's getting started to be redone in Bennington. But we have one and it's sounding similar to what yours is, and I know they've tried to do the steps along the way. They are private like yours, but they are trying to also do through grants and all of that. So I'm just trying to find where there's some helpful parts, but because this is difficult, and I'm not trying to say it's not possible, but it is difficult to come in almost the 11th hour asking for more money. Well, we'll try to do our best.
Kevin and then Sean.
I'm trying to get a handle on who qualifies to receive your services.
So anyone who is in need of substance use treatment, and we utilize what's called the ASAM criteria to determine level of care appropriateness. That is a series of guidelines that the American Society of Addiction Medicine has put forward. And as long as they're in need and they qualify through those criterion, then we would bring them into our facilities for treatment.
So in-state residents or someone from outstate, doesn't matter.
So we're almost exclusively Vermont resident based with our population.
But that wouldn't distinguish. If someone from New York showed up on, and I don't mean to be cold, showed up on your doorstep and they met the need, you'd take them in.
In theory, one thing that we don't do is we wouldn't be in network if they had New York Medicaid. And so we prioritize Vermont Medicaid first.
And the top line says residential substance use treatment.
Mhm.
So my bottom line question is, we want every individual healthy. What would be the way you'd characterize your treatments to help them get healthy?
So our highest level of care is Serenity House, and we offer withdrawal management or detox. That facility there is what prevents more people from going to the emergency department who are in need of detox services for alcohol, benzodiazepines, or opiates. So we're functioning as a high-level medical facility, not as high as a hospital, but certainly at a more cost-effective base. That is our highest level of care. Folks will often meet criteria for 2 to 4 weeks in that level of care, and then we work on transitioning them to lower levels of care based on what their need and criteria are. Our lower levels of care are clinically managed, so there really isn't any medical intervention, but there are clinical intervention with counselors, and there's a community reintegration component, there's a workforce development component, and we're preparing them to go from our highest level of care to a recovery home, but they need that missing gap sorted out first. And so that's another 3, sometimes even 4 months to bridge them in treatment until they're prepared for a sober house.
And one more, and then what I was hearing is most of the individuals coming to you are from the Justice and Correction
50%.
activities.
Roughly.
So if that's the case, they're coming to you from our prisons,
Mhm.
addicted to substances, and they need your help to get off of those substances.
They're not necessarily coming from the prison, although we do have a good number of folks coming from prison into our facilities. Oftentimes there may be a link with probation and parole offices, and they're out in the community being supervised.
Roughly what percentage come out of incarcerations and come to you?
Oh, I don't,
50%?
no. This, I'm thinking more along the lines of 10 or 15.
10 or 15?
People or percentage?
Percentage.
Okay, thank you.
Sean and then Connor?
So the numbers are great. The numbers are like more of the numbers that I'm used to looking at. Like they're
Not
not,
the millions?
I mean, I don't mean to throw anyone under the bus, but it's not state numbers. These are great numbers. Like, do you have, we don't have to get into every single one of them. They all look really reasonable. They're like, to me, placing vinyl siding and windows, $100 grand, that sounds about right. Do you have someone you've lined up to do these things?
So these are all based on quotes or conversations I've had with local contractors.
Okay, great.
We've used a few
All right.
on our facilities before.
Okay.
So I'm pretty confident with these numbers.
All right, thank you. I just needed some clarity with that.
And
But
have
thanks.
have you worked with Efficiency Vermont with any of it to see if they could help financially?
Not to see if they could help financially. I think there was some past history that we've had with them when looking at replacing windows in McGee House. I would be interested in bringing them on board with Serenity House windows as well, because there's a lot of efficiencies needing to be had in that building.
Chad, thanks so much for the work you do. Like this all sounds really worthy. I think like where some of these questions are coming from is the fear of the precedent setting in the capital bill for something like this, right? So I'm wondering if you could talk about like this Recovery House. It's obviously kind of Rutland County based there. Are there equivalent groups regionally? What are they? And I guess that the problem is you kind of got to make the case like, why should you leapfrog one of these other groups that probably has competing, demands as well, right? Like it's tough because we send the capital bill out to the floor. You better believe everybody from all the other counties are going to be like, well, where's the money for our recovery houses, right? So I think that's where some of these questions are coming from.
Absolutely. So we're very unique compared to some of the other preferred providers around the state where we serve the entire state as a residential treatment facility.
Okay.
So yes, we have 3 buildings in Rutland, but we are serving community members from Newport or Canaan or Grand Isle or Brattleboro. We have this service where we bring folks into treatment and then we work on getting them back into either their community of support or new community of recovery around the state. So it's same statewide presence that Valley Vista would have as well. So we're not specific to region.
Okay, that's helpful. Thanks.
Right?
There are sort of like 2 categories or 2 buckets of questions. And the first one is I'm just trying to picture this. So, and I think you said at least one or maybe more of the places are over 120 years old. So are we talking sort of about 3 big old houses with multiple people in them?
Yes.
Okay. And then sort of about numbers too. Like, is it about 6 or 10 or however many people per house or what are we?
Per house. So in our Serenity House location right now, our capacity is 30 people. In McGee House, we have 16 beds. In Grace House, we have 12 beds. And also in Grace House, we have located, and for the last several decades, 5 public inebriate beds off of that building as well.
How often are those full?
Full public inebriate, not so often. It depends on the day and New Year's and 4th of July. And we are also, Recovery House is working on launching the virtual public inebriate screening for statewide access to law enforcement. So we can point public inebriates and the law enforcement officers in the right direction.
And then the sort of second bucket, sorry, Troy.
No, I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, no. So we're seeing these requests all kind of lumped together, right? But I assume there's a prioritization. I mean, I don't know. First of all, like, have any of them been made before? And second of all, since they're all coming together, I assume the roof is over office space, for instance, or like, is there a way of sort of categorizing the need? And has it been approached before or brought? Sort of while together and now, yeah, I guess.
I'm trying to think, I believe several years ago, I attempted to request some capital improvement funds. Didn't go too far that session. So we thought, gee, we're going to tackle these issues. We were able to completely redo the Serenity House kitchen. And then we looked at the rest of our list and we said, we can't do this in a reasonable time frame before things start to fall apart around us. We need some additional resources.
Okay, thanks.
Just overall capacity. You talk about your overall capacity. What's your overall use rate? Like, how full are you?
Depends on the day. I can give you a snapshot in time. I think we've had recent weeks where we've been at the 90% mark. We've had recent weeks where we've been at the 60%. Historically, residential treatment in Vermont has been around 65% utilization. During COVID, residential treatment in Vermont dropped about 55%. And since COVID, since the peak of COVID, really back up in that 65% mark, but we have been seeing that increased as well over the past several months.
Thank you. Feel free to say it's none of your business. I don't know if this is a fair question, but a number of staff and what kind of salaries are we talking about for the staff that run these places? Is that a reasonable question?
It's a reasonable
The
question.
reason I feel comfortable in asking is because you used the word profit.
Mhm.
You said not a whole lot of profit when you're looking at Medicaid and grants.
Mhm.
To me, that tells me that you're very sensitive
Mhm.
to being reasonable, like Sweeney said about these costs.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that my question isn't offensive.
No, not at all. So I look at nonprofits with that old adage of no margin, no mission, right? And so the idea is we want to make sure that the building is able to carry us forward as we continue to drive that mission over the next 50 years. We have roughly 38 full-time staff right now and a handful of part-time staff. The largest staffing we've ever had, and the reason for that is to drive utilization, but to also reduce wait times. So essentially enhancing access. So we've done that. The salaries, I would say, have been historically underwhelming. We cannot compete with hospitals. We cannot compete with FQHCs or other primary care facilities. And it's been difficult. So we're really looking at staff who are focused on the mission while also trying to advocate for more workforce development in the state for this field, in addition to increasing Medicaid rates, for example, so that we can pay people a wage that they will stay in the field. But
Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing.
thank you.
So this was alluded to from Mary. We have what's called Building Community Grants program. And one sector of those building community grants is a human services grants program that are targeted specifically towards nonprofits for small projects such as this. Have any of your organization approached trying to get grant dollars from those grant programs?
So this was a topic of conversation a few years back for me with the governor's office. We looked into it, and I couldn't remember at the time what it was that led us to not apply. I can certainly take a look at that again now.
Because they're targeted specifically for situations like this, specifically. They're low, they're grants up to 25,000. It's a 1-to-1 match. It's very simple to apply for. It's a one-sheeter form to fill out. And it's specifically for items such as this. And it was set up 20 years ago as a way to get away from these individual requests coming in from different entities for capital projects. We fund it through the capital bill. But when I look at the list here, and these are projects that's what those community building grants specifically work with. Mary?
Do you have anyone within your association that is writing grants or looking at grants? Because there are tons of grants all over the place that you can look for specific projects, just like Alice had asked about Efficiency Vermont. And I know it sounds like you didn't have a good experience when you were possibly going to work with them before. But there are a number of grants out there that for just these kinds of improvements are there, and someone, I would think it would be in your best interest. I'm not telling you how to run your shop, but to have someone constantly looking, because you keep saying a couple of years ago, so your buildings are getting more troublesome because the maintenance isn't getting done. So if you had someone that was looking in a plan going forth as to what needs to be done, so that you're going to finally get them up to grade and, you know, that's kind of really what you need, but I'm not trying to tell you.
Questions, members? So we're in the process, we will be looking at the capital budget. And other things we need to get out. We haven't made any decisions on anything at this point. You've heard some of our concerns. And we start markup, we'll be going through all of our requests to see where these will end up.
Can I ask one last question? You said a lot of times, depending upon the day, you can either be at a 90 or an 85 or whatever percent full. We hear all the time, I know in our area, I don't know about other parts of the state, that a lot of times there are no recovery beds available. So do you have to have a referral or not, or someone can just kind of come and seek the help?
So we take on folks who call themselves. We also accept referrals. One of the narratives that we're trying to combat is the idea that there's limited access. We're working very closely with Valley Vista, with ESU, VDH, and AHS to kind of debunk that myth, because we are bringing in folks fairly quickly for a subacute facility like ourselves, and Valley Vista as well. Between the two of us, we're often doing same-day admissions, same-day screenings, and so we're trying to combat that narrative because there is availability.
Yeah, because I'm surprised to hear that you can do same day, and I appreciate so much what your organization is doing to help folks. But like I said, we hear so often there are no beds, so there a lot of times folks are being kept in the hospital, you know, for weeks on end at a very high cost without having a place to go. So I'm just a little challenged by that, but we truly do appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Kevin?
Do you have any data that shows success? Recidivism is being redefined as we speak. But do you have anything that says 50% of the people that we've provided service for are on the straight and narrow and become healthy and productive again?
Yeah.
Do you have anything like that to help us understand?
No, and I wouldn't even want to venture a guess. As a field, we have not defined clearly what success looks like, and we haven't established any evidence-based model for collecting that information. Oftentimes, the people who are doing well, we don't hear from again. So we look at recidivism, right? And that's the benchmark for what we look at as success. But I challenge that thinking as well. So I looked at our figures a little while back, and I found that 11% of our demographic went through residential treatment, either us or Valley Vista, and then returned back to residential treatment in 6 months. So only 11%. With a disease such as addiction, we look at that recidivism as a good thing, right? Folks seeking help when they need help, because we know that relapse is occurring out in the community, right? How quickly can we get them back into the system of care, right? And so we're looking at recidivism not as a benchmark for success or failure, but how we're retaining people within our system of care. So there really is no good way of defining how successful any program is. And I would challenge any program that touted any sort of success rates, out in the public.
Yeah, it's certainly very difficult to measure, but with the experience I've had, there's a very clear way of measuring it. And it's that they get clean.
And then those numbers are hard to capture.
No, I understand. Thank you.
Other questions? Again, Chad, thank you for coming up.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for
we'll
all your
take this
work.
under consideration when we do markup bill next week.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day. You too.
So we have DOC waiting. We have a new draft for H 550, which is the gender equity. I would like to take a quick 5-minute break so people can get out of the room, it's fresh air.
Sounds good.
If somebody has a speaker, maybe we could take that window out.
Yeah, it wasn't like that before.
I love the way you slid that in there,
It
Chair.
wasn't so far off after
No,
all.
we did